webinar for folks who, if you haven't done this before, you can type in the chat messages if you want to, ask questions if you want to. We have both Anita and myself here kind of monitoring things, so you can either respond to your question via chat or you can if we need to interrupt the conversation. But so chat's open for concerns. If you have any kind of technical issues and whatnot, that's a good place to address them there too. We are online with the webinar. We have the phone line available to you as well, which is probably preferred if you're going to actually talk to us, interact with us. Sometimes it's easier to do that via phone. Occasionally there are bandwidth issues on the webinar, in which case the audio might drop out or you might lose touch with us. Generally it's just a short-term thing. Has to do with stuff going on online. So sometimes that makes it intermittent online. So the phone line is a little bit more reliable for audio.
John, is the webinar room's not set up to allow talking over the computer? It's listen only anyway.
Is it? Okay. I don't know if that's something I didn't know for sure, but you certainly can be heard on the computer. But if you're only on a computer online, then you certainly can chat through the chat box just by typing.
I just changed that, so people should be able to talk on their computers.
It showed up in the participant list there, so that indicates that people can talk that way as well. Again, I think that's one of the things that causes audio issues occasionally when if your microphone is open and you get a little bit of feedback, it's because you got either a phone line or feedback occurring. So if you're online and not on the phone, be sure to mute your mic when you're not talking so we don't have that problem. So,
this is Chris also.
Oh, good. And Chris, you're just on the phone?
Yeah, I don't know how to get to the slide. When I click the link, it just brings me a black screen with audio, so I don't know if it's probably a computer issue.
Okay. Well, and we do have a PDF of the slides. There's not that many slides. It's just title slides, basically, so we'll have the slides there for guidance. Ultimately, we're recording the session anyway, and so you can tell your friends, or if you want to see it, catch parts of it, you can find all of the stuff on our website within a few days here. We'll have it uploaded. And it'll be in the webinar section, the Earth to Sky webinar section on the website. So I'll send out an email with that once we get it up and running. So the drill today, mostly we wanted to have this call just to get a chance to bring everybody back together again since our meeting in Spokane back in November, and kind of find out if there's any progress being made or any questions or lessons learned that folks would like to share. And we also wanted to introduce you to some of the other cadre we have working here with Earth to Sky. Specifically, we got Anita and myself are on board. Matt Hawley has joined us again from the National Park Service. And we have a new participant, Peter Griffith, Dr. Peter Griffith from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. He's also the Chief Support Scientist for the Above Research Campaign for NASA. We mentioned his name many times during our course, but we had to actually have him here, and he'll give us a little bit of an update in a few minutes about what's going on at NASA with the Above Research and any other tidbits. So welcome to the crew here, Peter. We're glad to have you with us. So with that, the general, we'll start with a brief kind of introduction from Anita, with some updates from Earth to Sky, and then we'll go from there. So take it away, Anita.
Okay, thanks, John. And hi, everyone. I'm really excited to get to hear from you all how things are going since our meeting there in November. So that'll be, I'm really looking forward to hearing that. Just briefly, what we in the group of Earth to Sky are working on most these days is developing what we're calling the Earth to Sky Academy, where we'll have eventually an opportunity for people to lead regionally focused courses using the Earth to Sky model, and we'll be training people in how to do that, and hopefully then also engaging with their community members in their region after they run their courses. So that's in the works. We're putting a lot of effort into that now, and I'm expecting that to launch in maybe a year to a year and a half. We're also working to hire essentially a deputy person who will work side by side with me over the course of about a year to a year and a half, and then eventually I will start to step back some hours in anticipation of retirement in a few years. So that's pretty exciting for me that NASA thinks that the Earth to Sky program is worthy of maintaining and keeping a connection going for the future. So that's pretty cool. And then we're also working on learning a little bit more from interpreters what their needs might be for space science content. We'll be putting out to the community as a whole a survey in the next week or so to get information from you all about the kinds of science content you'd be interested in for space science interpretive programming, meaning night sky interpretation or daytime astronomy, or looking at geology that's comparative between Earth analogs and other planetary geology features. So that's another aspect of our Earth to Sky work that we're expanding a little bit on. And then, of course, maintaining our interest and focus on the climate science and trying to keep you all up to date on science as it comes out, pointing out news from NASA as it comes, and hopefully answering questions that you all might have. And I do want to encourage you to use the listserv. If you have questions, send things to me, send them to each other. You can post to the listserv, and I encourage you to do that. So that's, in a nutshell, what's going on these days. Oh, John, you're silent.
Sorry, I muted. Didn't want to make the audio discussion. So it's good to hear. It's all good news to hear from Earth to Sky. It's all kind of encouraging as well. So I wanted to also give context. We asked Laura Prue to join us as well, but she's actually out in the field this week. And so is our other presenter from the course, who I know Kayla and Teresa from Idaho were active presenters, and they've been very busy this spring as well. We're not available during the course. So they wanted to make sure that I expressed their continuing support for the program and for what we're doing, and are always open for questions and inquiries by email if anyone has them as time goes on. So with that, I kind of want to open it up for some presentations. And as you know from email, I asked for folks if they had specific progress reports to let me know so we could include them in the agenda. And my first and really only response was from Angie and Aaron Youngbloth. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to either Angie or Aaron. I'm not sure which one of you is going to do the speaking first, but I did have some updates and they're posted on the screen in front of us. So Angie, Aaron, who's up? Jump in.
Thank you, John. Angie, are you online?
She's there. I'm not sure she's on. She said she doesn't know if her speaker's working in the chat, so it may be you to represent you,
Good.
Aaron.
All right. I guess she's having issues, so if I hear her voice, she can chime in. So we have been busy in Missouri. We came out to the conference as Missouri Department of Conservation representatives, and it was interesting. Our supervisors, just prior to the conference, was starting to look for information on climate change, and they were looking to see where should they turn, and all of a sudden we arrived saying, we're going to a conference with the experts of Earth to Sky. So it was great timing with that. They had started asking around a little bit to their leadership, and unfortunately, the Missouri Department of Conservation does not have a specific stance on climate change or a specific direction, which was a little surprising and a little unnerving to us as residents here. However, we hope that maybe that might change a little bit. We have a brand new director who is interested in this topic, and so we're thinking things might change because they just had a big staff meeting just even a week ago, and it's sounding like this might become a topic. We are also interested, Angie and I, to attempt to further this with some of the leadership in Department of Conservation. So we'll see where that goes, but so far locally we have had great support in the St. Louis region. So since November, we tried to consolidate the 2-day course into about an hour discussion. It was quite a challenge, but I think we did a pretty good job, at least from our responses after a couple of presentations. It worked out very well. We appreciate all of the resources and the slides and the effort that you put in for the 2 days, and we were able to combine that into some high points and places that they could go look for more information. So we first started with our own local volunteer staff and volunteers and staff at the Bush Wildlife area. We talked to about 20 folks there. It was a good crowd. It was kind of our peers, so it was good to get feedback from them. But then we took this to a wider audience, and it was the Missouri Master Naturalists. It was their 3 local chapters had their combined meeting and invited us to come and put on a bigger presentation. So it was the hour discussion, but then while we were at the conference in Spokane, we attended a workshop that was put on by National Park Service at Yellowstone on ACE, the Audience-Centered Experience. And thanks to John and Anita with some suggestions, we were able to come up with 8 stakeholders that the members of the audience had to become, and that worked out really well. I think definitely with difficult conversations like climate change, to kind of see the other side and see that it's not an easy answer, that really opens it up when you become a farmer who lives in the floodplain, or an investor, a financial investor, and should I go with the tried and true coal, or should I look into wind or solar, and or even new technology? So it was a really well-received program. We had put together several handouts with places to go to get more information, including Earth to Sky and a lot of the different places that you had suggested. And we have had hard copies and also sent that out electronically to many of the members. So that was really good information. So from that, oh, very good.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
I was having computer problems, so I called in with the phone. So you're doing great, Aaron. Keep going.
So kind of where we're heading from here is we are planning to do some public programs as volunteer naturalists with the department. That is really the main thing that we do is presentations or programs or hikes for the public. And so we're looking to now take what we have done with some of our peer groups now, and they were somewhat friendly audience. They were really good. We have some characters in the bunch, as most places do, and adapt that now for public programs. We're also looking to see if we can do some presentations for our church and maybe some others to kind of bring in those different aspects of faith-based communities that have a big say in creation and things like that too. So not just thinking from the environmentalist or conservationist side. Anything else, Angie, on kind of where we are or what we've been doing?
No, that sounds really great. I think you might have alluded to we're looking for opportunities to be able to present some information to our Conservation Commission, the leadership of the Missouri Department of Conservation, because sadly they really don't have any policies or acknowledgement of climate change at this point. So we're looking to try to bridge that gap, hopefully in the near future, we're really grateful that our supervisor is definitely on board with us, and so it helps to at least have that backing as a start. I guess just on a side note too, we're really starting to look at our own lives personally and our lifestyle choices, and just start to take a hard look at, you know, what we can do as individuals, you know, to reduce our carbon footprint, et cetera. So yeah, we're definitely on board with this, and we feel good about getting the conversation started with our peer group that we work with, and then taking it to the public soon. So yeah, thank you too for everything all the training that you provided for us, because it's helped pave the way for us back here in Missouri.
Very good.
Oh, I also wanted to mention thanks to Matt Hawley and the Yale climate conversation polls. We actually sprinkled that throughout our program and had our participants answer what they thought the percentage would be, and then we put up the percentage that the poll came out, and some were pretty astonished, as we were in the course we took with you guys, on where the public really lies on a lot of these conversations. So that was really good too.
Yeah, even in the current political climate, that data is actually becoming stronger and stronger over time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That sounds good.
So you guys were also, you sent us a couple of links to kind of express other targets of information, and actually Ellen Siegel was asking a question in chat about people engaged in interfaith climate change programs, and it kind of ties into what your other links of interest were. So you want to speak to that a little bit too? I have the links.
Go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Angie.
On the screen.
Yeah, so this was like a 40-day journey with Lent in mind, and it's 2 different websites that we look at each day, and Aaron and I read the articles together, and some of them are short video clips as well, and it's been extremely eye-opening to us in terms of how our lifestyle choices can impact people around the world, the impact of climate change in other countries. It's just, I just cannot believe, I just feel like I live with blinders on, you know, and I'm just in this bubble, and this is getting me outside of that bubble and introducing me to the true challenges and difficulties that other people are facing. Extractivism is another topic of, you know, how extractive industries are really just taking advantage of people that, you know, are not that well-to-do, do not have that strong of a voice, and I mean, they're just getting walked on. It's for us, I guess it's been eye-opening to see how a lot of people in the rest of the world are living, and like I said, we're starting to rethink our choices, how we could maybe live a more minimalistic lifestyle and present those possibilities to other people as well. So what do you think, Aaron?
No, that sounds good. With extractivism too, it's really interesting that back to the stakeholder conversation that we had, it's a hard discussion because a lot of cases it's the fossil fuels, which we know the harmful effects of that, but now even with the new technologies of needing batteries for storage of solar or wind, that those are some rare precious metals in unique areas that we need to come up with the new technologies of how we can use less and less of those things too, but that's becoming a problem too. So it's a very complex problem, as we all know. Also wanted to mention, just last night we went to a very interesting workshop here in St. Louis, and it was based around a book many of you probably already know, but if you don't, Project Drawdown, just recently released in the last year or two, by Paul Hawkins. He has had a wonderful team of people that mostly PhDs from around the world that have come up with 80 different things that we could do today that instead of just equalizing climate change, actually draw it down, make it less by 2050. And so that was a very interesting conversation. We had 4 guest speakers and multiple different organizations involved, very well attended, and glad to see that the U.S. Green Building Council here in St. Louis sponsored it. So that was really good to see a broad group of people getting together to talk about this topic.
That's pretty exciting. Sounds like you guys have been really busy, and it's very exciting to me to hear that. I'm wondering maybe if you could share your, the things that you pulled together for your training. If you would be willing to send that to John or to me, we can post some of that on the showcase in our website so other people could make use of that. If that's something you're willing to do, like your handouts and all.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's something that's, sometimes it's easier said than done, but if you've got it in the sort of package that we could use that, I think that would make a great showcase. Because I know a lot of people, when they come away from our workshops, they do some sort of peer education like you have done. I think it might be pretty useful for them.
Thank you. Yes, we'll get that to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
For those of you who haven't already noticed, in the chat box, the links are actually being posted. Nita posted both of those links. You can't really click on the screen to get them, but the links in the chat you can click on, and those will take you to those sites where you can find the information they were just talking about. There's another link I just added, which was another one that kind of came to mind from Ellen. That actually, Aaron, you and Angie mentioned that you had kind of watched these on your in your email to me. Katharine Hayhoe is a evangelical but a climate scientist who's done a whole series for PBS called Climate Weirding, and so this is a YouTube link that I just added in there that kind of takes you to her series, and I think she just finished out a season of them on PBS, but they're very short, very good, very clear, and they have some of that interfaith kind of connection to it that you might find useful if you're looking at those. So I think we mentioned her during the course as well, but she's a great source, and I think Anita's actually been in touch with her, trying to get in touch with her to see if we can arrange to have a webinar similar to this one between her.
We're hopeful. We're hopeful. Yeah, we'll see. She's actually taking essentially a sabbatical right now, so they're being very protective of her time, but they did reply right away, so they're interested. So yeah, we'll see.
Excellent. Back in November, we were able to, no, it was more recent than that, actually. Must have been just before she went on sabbatical, we were able to attend a webinar by Katharine. So very, very high-spirited, energetic, and can explain difficult topics in a understandable way for the general public. I'd second what you had said, John. Absolutely.
Yeah, we actually pulled from her program her talking template of how to talk with other people about climate change, and that was well received by our group as well, people that we trained. So yeah, it's like it's all coming together down here in Missouri for us. It's a good thing.
That's excellent.
Oh, it's good to hear. Good. Any other comments for you guys? Or we'll go ahead and open up the floor. We didn't have anybody reach out by email, but we'll open up the mic to anybody else that's on the line here who would like to talk about lessons learned or progress being made or even obstacles that you've encountered. Anything.
I guess one more piece of information about the program that Aaron and I attended last night. was really refreshing to hear the positive things that are being done right in our own backyard that we were not even aware of. So, for example, in downtown St. Louis, on top of the tall skyscrapers and large buildings, rooftop gardening is really starting to explode down there. There's close to 200 gardens in downtown St. Louis now, which we were really surprised to find out about. And another speaker is working, she's an engineer, she's an inventor, she's working on micro wind turbines for alternative energy, and she's designing them so that big stores like Walmart's, big superstores like that can use these. They've studied the wind flow over the building and where that can best capture the wind, and she had pictures of it, and if it's done right, you can put solar panels on top of those so you can do solar power and wind power on top of your buildings. And so I was like, wow, this is right in our own backyard. This is so cool. We had no idea. So lots of really, really neat things going on that kind of, just give us hope and, just fuel for the fire to keep going in the right direction.
Sounds good. Along those lines, I can share a story here in Anchorage. A couple weeks ago, I attended a happy hour event, which was kind of fun because they had great beer. It's a brewery here in town. But it was actually hosted by the local renewable energy active group, plus our Anchorage, Alaska Center for the Environment. And they are actually starting some new solar campaigns, both in Anchorage and in Fairbanks, with community solar. So here in the Arctic, where we don't have that much sunshine even during the winter, they're actually building solar plants that are community centered to actually take advantage of supplemental energy sources here in Alaska. And so that's kind of a new thing. And there's a new program that they mentioned that's kind of an exciting one. They're called Solarize. In this case, it's Solarize Anchorage, but it's basically a community group where they're gathering together in various communities around the country, interested residents who are interested in maybe getting solar on their household, and they're actually going together as a group and approaching contractors and buying in bulk and having the installations take place all at once. And so I don't know, that's starting up here in Alaska. We have one neighborhood that started kind of piloting it here in Anchorage, and they're actually working with contractors right now and hope to have a number of solar installations taking place this summer on people's households. And the idea is by combining their efforts and working with contractors directly, they can lower the costs and buy in bulk and keep the expenses much lower than they would individually to help kind of encourage the growth of solar. And I think this is a national trend, they say, that's growing around the country in various communities, more so in the lower 48 than Alaska, but even taking place here in Alaska and Anchorage and Fairbanks to kind of grow residential solar. So if you just Google Solarize your community and see if there's a program like that going on in your local community, you might find out that there's something going on that you didn't know about. But I guess renewable energies like solar in particular and wind to some degree are coming down and becoming much more competitive, and therefore are becoming more attainable to local residents. Kind of cool.
Hey, I'm just wondering, Ellen, you mentioned in the chat that you're seeking someone engaged in interfaith climate programs, and I'm just curious as to what the Climate 101 Day is actually all about. Can you
I'm making it up from scratch.
Good for you.
My temple has a new rabbi who is very involved in social justice, voter rights for felons and immigrants, and fair housing are some of the, and sex trafficking. So those are some of the things the temple has taken on. And I'm kind of identified as the Everglades girl in my synagogue. We're a very small community, so everybody who has a passion gets known that way. And so she asked me would I want to do something on, nature, and so I said, yeah, I'd like to do something on climate change. And there's a group here called CLEO, Climate Leadership Engagement Organization, real grassroots, kind of teaching people how to do climate change education, much like what your Earth to Sky program is going to want to do. So I went to two workshops that they gave. So I've got kind of the presentation for, they organized it by what's the science, how serious is it, and what are some solutions. And they're going to do that for us. I didn't want to just market the program to my temple because there's only 70 families. How many of them are going to be free on a Sunday morning, and how many of them care about climate change at this point? So that's what made me think go interfaith, and we have some sister churches, a Lutheran and an Episcopal that we work with. And I thought, well, what if I did an interfaith look at climate change locally? And it's going to be a 3.5-hour program. An hour and a half of it is going to be the Clio representative doing their very polished, very excellent slideshow, which I'll see if it's possible to share with everybody on this call, because it's like I don't have to recreate a PowerPoint. I just have to learn to feel comfortable that I got the content. So they're going to do that, and I'm going to start with a sociometry exercise and have put the 6 Americas around the wall of the sanctuary and have people go stand where they think they are as a pre-test, and then at the end I'm hoping that everybody who isn't already totally alarmed moves up at least one bubble. And then what I wanted to do with the other piece of the day was bring someone in from Miami Climate Alliance or maybe one of our resilience officers, because each little town actually has some, or each big city has somebody, have them talk about what's going on locally. And then I wanted to just have a focus on what are the communities of faith doing so that it has an interfaith thing. So even the links you just sent me, Anita, probably could do it if I don't find a Catholic or a Protestant person to come speak for 10 minutes about that faith community's attachment. So it's not a lot of time to do a lot of things. I wanted to see, it's like spaghetti thrown against the wall. I want to see if we put it out there, in whatever social media each of our 3, the 2 churches and the temple have, and individual people, Sierra Club, Audubon, maybe the science departments at the schools. I'm new to broadcast, like how do you market this stuff? I actually don't know. And there's a religious columnist in the Miami Herald that might be willing to put this out. And just open it up and see who shows up. So that's what we're up to. As I say, I'm making it up from total scratch. And if anybody on the call has done something like this already or has ideas for how to make it efficient and engaging, that'd be great. I'm not trained in ACE yet, so I'm not comfortable doing too much of that yet.
Ellen, you are in Miami, is that right?
I am in Miami. That is correct.
So you said, so are you affiliated with Everglades? You said you're the Everglades gal. I'm
a volunteer. I went to NAI as a representative of Everglades National Park. I'm an active volunteer in the park.
You volunteer there. Okay, all right.
I volunteer there, yeah.
So you know the rangers there. They may have some good ideas for you too. And then out at Biscayne, one of our alumni, Gary Bremen, is
oh my God, Gary, right?
Yeah, he's got lots of great ideas for, and especially when you're thinking about what you're doing. You'll probably be involving families, and they have such huge family programs, and Gary does so much of that. He may have some good ideas for you.
That's a great idea. I know him well. I didn't think of reaching out to park people because I've already got the science part put together, but he'd be really good for he could do the ACE part, absolutely.
Well, and in addition, because they do a lot of that kind of family programming, he may have some ideas about how to conduct that too,
Right.
Yeah,
I thank you. I did not think of having kids come to this or families, but that's a really good idea.
I think that's where the gold is,
That's
getting the kids involved, because as we're seeing, we're seeing today, that our youth they're very interested in being agents of change themselves, and it's really, it's their future. So I think having them involved is really, really a good thing. But you only have so many hours with so many people, right? But
Right.
That's
right.
pretty exciting to be doing something like that.
Well, I think it is exciting, and I have a feeling that it will take off because the time is right. Oh my God, we're Miami, for crying out loud.
Right, yeah.
It's like we go
Yeah.
underwater every full moon in the fall.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very present. It's very present. So anyway, that's what we're up to in Miami, and I took the NAI experience, joined Clio, and then jumped on the opportunity to do something. I'm hoping not too big, but to start with the temple, and then
Yeah.
we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that
Not
Clio
so much yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
the Clio program I was familiar with a few years ago, and I haven't touched base with them recently.
My
But
God.
I know it's an
I am telling you what,
excellent project.
It is absolutely has taken off. I think she's up to 4 full-time staff now.
Excellent.
She's showing up everywhere, and their program is, well, I like it. It was, it's totally digestible by a regular person. You don't have to be, it's designed for regular people. I don't know that it's designed for children, but anyway. So that's what's going on in the southeastern corner of the country.
That's excellent. So does anybody else have any other projects that you'd like to share, or any challenges that you are experiencing? Need a little help with anything?
We're always open to those kinds of reports too. You drop me an email to myself or Anita, and we'll share them with the whole group. We have a listserv to do that as well. Or you can just fire out an email to everybody as well. Several of you have done that already. I know Jamie Little at Idaho has done that with some of the work that he's been doing. He actually wanted to attend this workshop today too, but he had another meeting, an interpretive planning meeting he was attending in Idaho. I didn't get an email from him. But we're always receptive to those news bits. I'm also eager to get any kind of success stories, especially products that have been completed. If you get them by means of giving me a chance to report those on a showcase, we'll feature them on the website as well. So options to be keeping in mind. If there aren't a lot of other feedback, then we'll go ahead and move on. I wanted to give Peter a chance to talk to us a little bit about what's going on with any kind of updates or news from NASA's research up there in the Arctic and other climate-related types of topics. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Peter Griffith, who's the founding director for NASA's Carbon Cycle and Ecosystems Office. I also mentioned he's involved with above. He's kind of our lead scientist for the Earth to Sky project, too. He's been with us since, I think, almost the first year or two, over 10 years ago, that he was still participating with our courses, and he's kind
I'm a slow learner. No, I know.
Wouldn't say
no,
that.
I love working with this group.
So take it away, Peter. Tell us what's going on with above and any news.
Were you going to give me a screen to put up, or?
We could do that, yeah. You're a presenter, so you can just upload something or share your screen, whatever your choice is to do. I have your photograph up there right now.
I think you might have to stop sharing your screen. Let's see.
Anita, you got that? I think Anita's on driving.
Yeah.
So I'll let her take care of that. But just to give some context for Peter as he gets things set up here.
Oh, no, it's Adobe is horrible. It's not going to let me do it.
Okay.
There's a very specific way that I have to launch Adobe Connect, and
you're not there
in order to make it work.
Well, we can put your picture up on screen at least so people will have context. Or if you want to.
Yeah, you can go ahead and put that back up, I suppose.
Do you have your webcam? You could actually put yourself live if you wanted to.
Oh dear.
Or just talk.
Yeah. So I think you folks, this is the group that had Laura Prue come as a
yes
as a scientist. Laura is wonderful. I'm sure that you enjoyed her presence terrifically. Last year, we executed NASA's biggest ever airborne science campaign. We had 10 aircraft flying the domain, and the dozens of field teams doing groundwork. There is a bit of a write-up on it that's on our newsletter page, so I'll send you the link to the newsletter page if you want to read up on some of that. And I'm also going to send you the links to this is a page full of little news stories that were done by NASA. One of them features Laura Prue, it looks like, the one from May 9th of last year. There's a video that you'll see there from August 5th that's a walkthrough of the NASA DC-8 that might be fun to watch. And then this one is news stories that have been done by outside news organizations, NPR and Gizmodo and CBS, CBC, various things like that. So you're welcome to poke your way around those. I might suggest if any of you do the Facebook or Twitter sort of thing, is to follow NASA Earth this year. NASA Earth is going to feature NASA science missions to study the Earth's cryosphere. So there'll be a bunch of postings about snow and ice and glaciers and Antarctica and Greenland. But they'll also be featuring our work because one of our main areas of studies is permafrost. So the permanently frozen ground that's in the northern part of the circumpolar Arctic. And this is an area that's of particular interest during above because the permafrost stores massive amounts of organic carbon, the remnants of dead plants and animals that have accumulated over a 100,000 year time frame. And as this permafrost is thawing, this organic matter warms up, and it's then subject to being eaten up by bacteria, by different kinds of bacterial communities. It can either be in an area where there's plenty of oxygen and carbon dioxide is released, or it can be in areas that have a lot of water or flooded in some way, and that's in areas where a lot of methane is released by the microorganisms. Of course, this is one of our concerns because CO2 and methane are greenhouse gases. So if a lot of this organic carbon were to get thawed and then released into the atmosphere by microbial activity, it would further increase the warming that's already happening. So one of our goals in this project is to better quantify how much CO2 and methane is actually leaving the permafrost due to this thaw, how much CO2 is being taken up by plants that are in some areas of the Arctic are growing more quickly because it's warmer and the growing season is longer, and whether the increased plant growth is offsetting the CO2 that's being released by the thawing permafrost. So far, the news is not all that encouraging on that report, and some of the areas where the most rapid plant growth is happening and the most permafrost is thawing, the microbes seem to be winning. And part of that is because this respiration can continue into what we call the shoulder seasons, into that time when snow first falls and the growing plants shut down for the year, but the soil underneath the snow that has fallen doesn't freeze for 6 or 8 weeks. So this gives the microbes, a longer time frame where they can do their thing and release CO2 or methane, compared to when the green plants get shut down by the change of seasons. This year we have a couple of dozen teams in the field. Laura Prue, I'm pretty sure, is headed out in the next week or so with her team and a whole bunch of snow machines, what some of you may call snowmobiles. There's a passionate debate in Alaska and Canada about whether they're called snow machines or snowmobiles, and there's a minority group that says they're ski-doos. I think, John, you could probably testify that people come to blows about what we call these devices sometimes.
Indeed, they do.
But Laura is another one of these badass women scientists who's leading a team out when it's minus 20 degrees and going out onto the snowfields of Wrangell St. Elias National Park and quantifying how much snow has accumulated over the winter and correlating that with recruitment of the Dall sheep lambs. And she probably told you a bunch about that at the meeting. But we'll have more teams going out over the summer. Looks like we may have a very small airborne campaign again this year. We had some funds left over from the big aircraft rodeo last year, and so we'll be able to bring back the NASA Gulfstream 3 jet carrying the L-band synthetic aperture radar. That's a whole lot of words, which means it's a flying radar that scans the ground and gives us information from the backscattered radar radiation that comes back and is received at the aircraft about how much of the soil underneath the aircraft, 41,000 feet below, it has thawed, and also gives us information about the shape and structure of the vegetation growing on the surface, so the tundra, shrubs, and trees, depending on what part of the region. So we're going to get a chance to revisit part of Canada and Alaska with the L-band synthetic aperture radar. I think that's about the kind of the highlights of what's coming up. Follow NASA Earth for more fun news about what NASA is doing all around the planet. And I guess I could take some questions.
I can echo that. Actually, the following Peter, both he and the above campaign feeds on Facebook and Twitter are really a rich source of information for us. I watch them constantly. In many cases, I actually repost them to our Facebook group too. So
yeah.
You can.
Yeah, I was plugging NASA Earth, which is the main social media presence, because there's so much information on it. There is a NASA Above as well, where I focus really on just on what's happening with Above. So follow that as well. I can't remember it's NASA _above on Twitter and NASA.above on Facebook.
Yeah. And I know you spent an awful lot of time in Alaska and Canada last summer, Peter, because I noticed throughout the summer there were lots of videos of you and interesting stories from you about being hit by lightning and all kinds of other exciting things.
Yeah.
During that.
So you can those are all summarized on one of those links that I sent. So those of you who are interested in sort of reliving my summer in the Arctic, you can click through some of those.
Very nice. And he's a big fan of national parks too, so or any park area. So if you make friends with Peter, he may come to visit.
That's right.
Very good. So we're running down a few moments. I wanted to give a few moments also for Matt to give updates as well. So I'm going to segue quickly here to Matt Hawley and give Matt, if you're there, are you online? Can you want to
Can you hear me, John?
News from Park Service?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we're sounding good.
All right. I'm also going to try to turn on my cam. I don't know if you can see me out there or not.
Well, yep, there you are.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things about what we've been doing here, the Climate Change Response Program. As you guys can imagine, things are always challenging with a new administration, so we've been focusing our efforts much more on sort of internal trainings and communication rather than, all the big public outreach, flashy headline type of stuff. Just 2 weeks ago, we did another of our Interpreting Climate Change virtual course, where we had about 45 NPS interpreters around the country that were involved in that. We had 3 days, 5 hours each day of great online sort of discussions, phone calls in our breakout groups, and it was just a really great experience to give people in parks all around the country a chance to kind of learn and hear from each other in that. And we also had 5 students. We brought in some Parks Canada folks that were some of the lead interpreters kind of in their major offices, as well as stationed in a few of their parks as well. I know we had a Parks Canada student in our Earth to Sky class, and actually her supervisor was in our training course. And so it was really great because Parks Canada, they finally now, with their administration change, are encouraged and allowed to talk about climate change, which they haven't been able to do before. And so they were so passionate and excited, and they were great participants in the class, sharing their stories and just trying to learn from us. The National Park Service were sort of, they look at us as like, wow, they've been doing this stuff for, 10 years in some cases. And it was just really fun to get their, feel their passion and energy for sharing their climate stories in their Canadian national parks. So that was a lot of fun. And then I guess on my end of things here in 3 weeks, I leave for Sequoia National Park, where I'll get to be involved with camping with high school students to teach them about climate change in Sequoia National Park. We're doing a couple programs where it's taking kids from public schools in Central California. This is pretty, low-income farming communities, so these are not, incredibly well-off, advantaged students. I know for the first group that we have coming, of the 14, only 2 have been camping before. And so we're going to be camping with them for 2 nights, going into the sequoias, checking them out, and then on the 3rd day we have a group of 4th grade students that come to the park, and then the high school students actually teach the 4th graders about climate change and protecting the earth and sustainability and all that, leading them in various activities in different stations. So this is something I'm really excited about. We've done it before in some other national parks, but I personally had not been involved with this, and so this is my first time, and I'm nervous and excited. I don't know what it will be like camping with a group of high schoolers that have never really been outside too much before. The teachers told us an anecdote about how one of her girls, who will be coming on this trip, they were on a field trip kind of up in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, and they had to walk downhill to get to a stream, and the girl got down on kind of her hands and knees and started crawling downhill, and the teacher was asking why, and as it turns out, the student had never walked downhill before because she lives in Visalia, California, where it's totally flat, and these students never get a chance to go anywhere or travel. So her whole life had been spent walking on flat ground or on staircases where everything was flat. And so after that field trip, it sort of opened her eyes enough that she signed up for this cool camping program. And so these are the kind of students we're going to get out there to see nature and to learn about climate change at the same time. So that'll be coming up in April, and I'm so excited about that. So a lot of fun things happening here.
April in California doesn't sound too bad. I know you used to work in Yosemite, so you're probably happy to get back down to California and be out in the park.
Exactly, and I worked in Sequoia, but that was back in 2006. So I'm like, wow, 12 years ago. How old am I? Yeah, so I've worked in both Yosemite and Sequoia, so it'll be kind of a nice sort of homecoming for me.
Well, not a bad place to spend springtime.
Exactly.
Hey, Matt, are you folks thinking that you might offer up that ICC course again within the next year?
At this point, we don't know if we're going to try to do a fall offering or if we're just going to assume we'll do it again probably next February. That's still up in the air. It sounds like Becky Lacombe, one of our instructors who's been with it from the beginning, will probably be retiring this summer, possibly. I don't know for sure yet, but we may not get her again for another course, so we might push it back to February to give us more time with getting new instructors, but we'll see. If not this fall, definitely in the winter.
It's such a great course. I hope you're able to offer it and to open it up to people outside of the service a little bit.
Yeah, this was an unusual one. In the past, we have allowed people from other government agencies or nonprofits and universities to be involved. With this one and the administration change, we decided to keep it simple and have it for just NPS folks as well as the Parks Canada staff. And you're certainly right. That may be different next time, but those are decisions that happen above my pay grade, so no guarantees or predictions from here.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
So it looks like we're running out of time. We're right on schedule, though, so just wanted to have a moment for some closing thoughts. Of course, we recorded today's webinar, thinking we'll have this available for those folks who weren't able to attend, and it'll be posted on the website soon. We also wanted to encourage everyone to join our Facebook group if you want to. It's kind of a way to stay in touch with a lot of these news items as they come along, to see the kind of things that Peter was talking about in particular. If you will go back through that Facebook group page, you'll be able to see a lot of those videos and news items from last season. But we've been doing this for the last few years for folks who are. It's a closed group just for folks who have participated in the Earth to Sky classes and who are on board with our registered with our group. So anyone's open to join that. You just have to register for it, and we approve you within a day or so, and you can follow that feed. We've also been developing a newsletter, which will be coming out soon, kind of taking some of the articles that we have been posting to the listserv that we send out by email to everybody. But if you have items, news items that you can incorporate into a newsletter, feed them to Anita and I too, so that we can share the news with the rest of the community. Any other closing thoughts, Anita? Peter, anyone?
No, John, I think that does it. I just posted the Facebook group link in case people didn't have it. So you can, if you're not in there, you can certainly join in, and we'll easily and happily approve you as part of the group. That is a closed group. We do that on purpose so we don't end up with trolls talking about climate in some sort of way that we don't appreciate. So you're happy, we're very happy to have you join us. One thing I would like to know, maybe y'all could just type in a yes or no in the chat box, is would you appreciate having another webinar like this where we get a chance to share out with each other in the future, or just have a chat amongst yourselves, have an opportunity to get together and share news or progress that you're making. So if you would like to do that, just put a yes in the chat box, and we can kind of follow up knowing what you all think about that. And that's about all I have for today anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. Well, thank you all for your time, and do stay in touch. We will watch for emails, and phone lines are always open as well. And in the meantime, everyone enjoy the spring and have a good St. Paddy's Day this weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And for all you're doing. For all you're doing.
Thank you.
You bet.